power sector, and this time we're joined by Mr. Joe Ajero, who is the General Secretary, National Union of Electricity Employees. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
And you're also in Labour, as a matter of fact. I must point that out. Well, the Special Advisor to the Minister of Power, Sidon Adinaba, says in a closing statement that the union are opposed to the interest of Nigerians in getting power. Why are you opposed to that?
Well, I watched him briefly, and he identified some obstacles in this program. He mentioned gas. He mentioned inability to overhaul a power station that was even built since 1968. He mentioned all these challenges. And I think it's contradictory to say it's the unions or the workers who have handled this obsolete equipment from 68 to date. I'm not sure it's up to 6 months he was appointed. So the union suddenly became, the workers suddenly became obstacle. I think there is need for further clarification on this. There's no truth in it. You know, from the time they came into power, I think the focus should have been how to improve power supply. And I don't think he can say that maybe a system has been vandalized by the workers at any cost, at any moment. And I think I was expecting him to assess power generation when Professor Batinaji was appointed and now. So these are some of the comparisons.
Perhaps you want to tell us? He says he has improved tremendously, except for this challenge that we have.
For those challenges have been there. You know, and then if you are saying that the challenges are, the challenge of gas has been there for every Nigerian. So, and you are appointed to tackle these challenges. So it will be wrong for you to repeat to Nigerians that there are challenges. No gas, no overhaul. When the period was enough for you to have, embarked on overhaul of this equipment. So I think they are not telling Nigerians the truth. But we are opposed to stealing.
Stealing?
Yes, we are opposed to transferring public ownership to individual pockets. We are opposed to the type of privatization that has taken place in other sectors that has left Nigeria bare. That we are opposed to. I think he was equally contradictory when he said we were negotiating and then we were opposed to.
Can you give us an instance? I mean, you pointed out to the kind of privatization that took place in other sectors. What other sectors are you talking about?
Well, I know Nigerian Airways, I know Daily Times, I know the Doba hotels, and very many other exercises in this country.
Yeah, we watched the probe, but there's also the telecom sector,
yeah,
and how private people have been able to come in. How come it seems that the unions are trying to make it difficult for the same kind of transformation to take place in the power sector?
In the telecom sector, there was no privatization. As we talk now, NITE has not been privatized. What you saw was opening up the market for other players to come in, and it coincided with technological changes all over the world. The GSM, whether in Togo, whether in Ghana, whether anywhere. So it wasn't as a result of privatization in the telecom sector. No, I say no to that.
Okay.
So they should not be mixing this up. And I want to say that if NITE has been in existence today to compete with all these other GSM companies, things would have been better for us.
Well, he mentioned 3 things in that the union is negotiating with the Ministry of Power. But he said the issue of the minimum wage is a non-issue. But we see that also highlighted in so many reports that the union saying this is a major challenge. How do we reconcile that?
Well, you can see the level of absolutism being displayed by the Minister of Power. The minimum wage is an act of parliament. And somebody, an advisor to the minister, stays there to tell you it's a non-issue. Whether you're in the private sector or in the public sector in Nigeria, you've got to negotiate minimum wage with the workers and see how applicable it could go with your own sector.
Is this in the light of after they just experienced a 50% increase in salaries? Okay,
now let me come to that. 50% salary increase was final settlement to 137% negotiated in 2009. It was an unresolved issue until Hassan Somono-led committee was appointed. And he said he will not go into this negotiation when this issue is generating problem. Stress of strike and all whatnot, that he has to resolve it. Now in that agreement it was said that this 50%, instead of 137%, we are going to give 50% as a final settlement to the agreement of 2009.
When was this 50% finally agreed upon?
It was agreed on by May 2011.
And when did minimum wage issue come up as well?
Well, after that.
Is it fair? Is it right? I mean, let's look at it from this point, that we've just experienced a wage increase sometime in May 2011, and less than how many months after we asked for another wage increase?
Well, those who are afraid of negotiation will always tell you that. And I'm sorry, maybe you are not, that's not your area. If workers are demanding for something, you engage them and prove to them that what you are demanding is not tenable. But let me say this. I say final settlement of an agreement of 2009. I repeat. So it has nothing to do with, it tried to clear an agreement, although when government said they don't have money, we decided not to collect arrears from 2009. It was a product of 2009 agreement, only 13% was paid, and finally it was settled in 2011. And if a demand for minimum wage is put across before government, we'll have to negotiate it.
Yeah, it's interesting that, I mean, it took 2 years to be able to negotiate one particular agitation, to resolve it. And then shortly after we agree that particular negotiation, we start asking for another one. If you were the one in government shoes, will you be keen to enter another negotiation process so soon after you just finished one really lengthy one?
It's not that simple. If PSN is to be in existence, as they are planning to kill it, even before July, before September, you can say you don't have money here now. After some time, we negotiate. If you leave them now, and tomorrow that organization is not there, whom do you go to ask for the minimum wage? It's not just simple.
So if the minimum wage is paid pronto and they go ahead with the privatization, would you be okay with that?
Well, it's not just that. You see, in the negotiation, and I thank God that it was Hassan Salman that was negotiating, we had issues state by state, pending issues, which we need to clear. And under these pending issues, that's where all these issues came up.
Now you brought such issues before the ministry?
Yeah.
Because Nigerians are worried when they bring the union, and yesterday's headline, your name was attached to it, that you were creating some kind of empire for yourself just to make us stay in the dark. And good enough you're here. Why would you want us to stay in the dark? I mean...
You see, I think I pity for the profession I practice, journalism. If you look at that, if you read that report, you discover that somebody was saying that Ajero has created empire. Now, I want to tell you, in that meeting, NUI, which I represent, which I happen to be the spokesperson, had 5 representatives. The senior staff had, the pensioners had. The Minister of Justice, Minister of Power, Minister of Labor, Minister of Finance, Budget Office, BPE, Minister of Labor. Sorry, all these representatives were there. And we were given a story that Ajero came to that meeting and seized everybody. Hassan Salman, the first president of NLC, was the chairman. Agari, the former permanent secretary, was the government spokesperson. And at the end of the meeting, they had an agreement. There was no walkout. And the agreement, on the day of the final meeting and agreement, Ajero was not there. I will give you a copy of the agreement. Ajero didn't even sign. But you read, maybe it was Ajero's spirit that disrupted the meeting. So when you look at such blatant falsehoods, you start to wonder what is happening. So I think they should concentrate. And I want to say that the Power Ministry is not a privatizing agency. That's the job of the BPE. They should concentrate and give Nigerians regular power supply.
It's interesting.
But they use when they concentrate to give Nigerians a regular power supply, they also use members of electricity, the electricity workers.
Yeah. So is there any proof?
So if they say the workers are all bent jeopardizing the effort of the government,
is there any proof that there was 20 megawatts generated which was not sent to Nigerians? I think there is need for us at this point in time to clear from propaganda and the real issue. Is there any issue that we generated 50 megawatts and it was not distributed to Nigerians? There was no issue. And the same people are giving you excuses of lack of gas and whatever. So do you turn back to say we had no gas but we expected the workers to use their blood to exchange for gas?
You're talking about cases where, in this particular instance,
there's a phobia.
Would you not exactly have, capacity to generate? What are in places where you already have the capacity to generate, it's already there, and then people go to PATN offices and the attitude they get from workers is not, it's not anything to write home about. In terms of response to because this complaint, the person who mentioned your name here is a consumer.
No.
At the end of the day, what the average Nigerian is arguing over.
Sorry, I want to tell you and I think it should be even in your system. The person had even addressed a press conference jointly with us. Wait, let me learn. Jointly with us, saying he's consumer, and he was aggrieved that he was thrown out during the MPA privatization process. I'm not mentioning his name. Let me clarify this.
Let me clarify
this.
Now I want to clarify my question.
I want to clarify. And who assumed to be chairman of Consumers Association?
I want to clarify my question to you. My question to you is the attitude of workers when you go to PATN offices. That is the question. Are you saying that when you go to PATN offices, you have the friendliest set of people who are always happy to do their jobs? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't know what you meant by that. Whether people who are friendly to you...
Should we put it out as a question as to whether or not...
No.
Because we know areas...
You are not getting it right. Those offices you visit are not from where you get supply. Sorry, my sister.
I understand that they're not where we get supply.
Sorry, my sister. The people that generate and even transmit, you don't see them.
Very much so, we don't.
Fine, but if you are talking of going to pay a bill and human relations, that I can't stand briefly for anybody. Because when you are going to Sokoto or Were or anywhere, I'm not there. So I wouldn't know how somebody treated you.
Let me give you an instance.
But it has nothing to do with the power generated and power supplied to your house.
We know areas. These are the officials that the people relate with.
Yeah.
We know areas where PHCN members of staff would dare not go. Wow. Especially when it comes to areas when it has to do with, say, we're going to go and cut electricity or see if monitor meters, as it were. Yeah. They dare not go to some areas because they'll tell you we've not had electricity in God knows how long, and you come and look at what meter.
Yeah.
Have you not had instances when they were going there?
Why are you mixing this?
I'm not mixing it. What I'm trying to tell you
is electricity stored?
What I'm saying here.
No, the ones we generate, do we store it and say we won't give this?
Sometimes what you get is that there is electricity. For minor faults, a pole needs to be replaced, or a line has cut somewhere. The attitude that you get does not befriend the average electricity worker with Nigerians. I'm asking you, can you take brief for that?
That's there's a poke or there's a
have you not had issues like that?
If they have
customer relations, in cases where electricity does exist,
that we have response time. So if people from such areas are not meeting with such response time, I think they have supervisors. So that we don't make this a national issue for national debate. If they don't respond to the appropriate time that the pole fell down somewhere and for a day it has not been attended to, they have supervisors. Bring that up.
Okay, but other than the negotiations with the government and union workers, do the union members meet regularly to talk about how they need to improve customer relations to the people?
Yeah, in these days they participate even when you have community relation, whatever. We try to ask our people to go there because one thing is, union is this side, management is this side, and I must be frank with you. So if these complaints are coming up, like I have told her now, and I happen to know, I will try to call the person in charge, the supervisor of the person, to find out why such development was on.
Is there a disciplinary body that could discipline any area member?
In the unions as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
In the unions, not just in terms of management, in the unions as well.
As in
any errand member of staff.
If you're being disciplined by management, we think that you're not representing us well in the union.
Well, before you run for any union position, you must not even have a query. Sorry, because we uphold that disciplinary procedure to the letter. As I speak to you, that 2 weeks ago, I had to go to a big power station. We went there to dissolve the chapter there because of indiscipline. So we don't condone indiscipline in the union. I repeat, we don't. If you have an advice, if you have a query in the National Union of Electricity Employees, you won't run for any office from chapter to the national.
So the way it is now, what's the way forward? Are you in talks with the minister or the ministry as well as government as employee secretary general so that we know that this thing is on its way to be history.
Well, the issue is that the federal government set up a negotiating team.
When was that? This year?
Since last year, headed
Okay.
by Hassan Somono. And the team is negotiating. But the minister is doing another thing. The team, and I know that it is the BPE that is privatizing. If you read the minister last week, he said they have a package already for the workers, whether the negotiation finishes or not. And that is why this guy is telling you.
And that's a plus if they have a package, isn't it?
Yeah, they have a package based on what?
That should be what your union should find out from the ministry.
You see, we don't run labor unions like that. You don't just give us what you want. There are laid down procedures, cessation of job, redundancy or whatever. These things are negotiated. Somebody can't just rise up to say, take it or leave it. That is the problem we are having. We are negotiating, we are still talking, we have not even concluded. And you are saying it is not going to come out anything. You are not going to look at all these issues.
Away from the negotiating team, Sir Markwe, have you ever met as a union representative the minister?
Well, there have been at least, there was a meeting here in January.
Here in Lagos?
Yes, in Lagos. Yeah, and the meeting, they said it was cordial. But when they left, the minister went to be doing all those things he promised he was not going to do.
Okay, but have you heard about, because this matter happens, it comes up, it goes, that some who deal in generators actually collude the electricity workers to switch off this electricity so that people can go and buy generators. Have you heard it before?
Switch off where?
Is there any truth in it? I mean, you must have heard it before.
Well, I don't think we know those people that imported electricity. And one good thing about even the appointment of the current minister was that he was into providing generator in Abuja for federal government in those days. So if there's a cartel, let him break it. Let some people go to jail on all these issues. So one can't just stay in his cozy
But you must have heard it before.
One can't stay in his cozy room. But with all that is happening now, 20,000 people, privatization, casualization, you can't say that the union or the Ajero you are mentioning, for this over 15 years, was a contractor.
Okay. How much are we generating currently?
As at Friday, we weren't up to more than 2,300 megawatts.
Okay, so that contradicts the figure. But I was going to ask you, did you think that the members of staff at PHCN headquarters were not doing anything? I mean, a host of people said that they were just there, going to work and doing nothing.
Well, I think,
is that true?
I think every organization has its own headquarters. And I think there is need to know the services they provide. They are not into generation. A KJ is not into generation. A CO is not into generation. There are generating companies. There are transmitting companies. There are those on service to the organization that services it. But when you now say, I take over this place, because the Minister of Power wants to take over that building and to post out all these people. Now, let me tell you this.
Take over
a staff
to what end?
Can I put this point? A staff of NDE cannot be transferred to the Ministry of Labour. So there is already an aberration. And for you to register a company, it must have a registered office, corporate office. So when you now disorganize that organization, remove the corporate office, and then you tell me that PSN is still in existence, it doesn't follow.